Alright mate, how you doing, and welcome back to another episode of IMO. And Wayne Rooney has just become the all-time leading goal scorer for the England men's national team. But is he the best England striker of all time? In my opinion, he's not. Yet. And here's why. So after scoring his penalty versus Switzerland, Wayne Rooney is now the all-time leading goal scorer for England with 50 goals, surpassing Bobby Charlton's 49 goals. But is he the best striker of all time for England? I personally don't think he is, mainly because he's never done it on the big stage. He scored just one goal out of 11 World Cup finals appearances for England. First off, Gary Lineker has a much better record than that. He scored 10 goals in World Cup matches. He got the Golden Boot in 1986 with 6 goals, and he got 4 more at the 1990 World Cup. Now, Lineker's England goals came at a rate of 1 goal every 136 minutes for England. Meanwhile, Wayne Rooney only averages a goal every 162.5 minutes. Compare that to Bobby Charlton, who only got a goal every 193 minutes. We have to say, though, Bobby Charlton wasn't a striker. He was a midfielder, he was like an attacking midfielder, he scored a lot of goals from outside the box. So, very different player to Rooney. It was amazing that he managed to get 49 goals and win a World Cup for England, something no one else outside of that team in 1966 have ever done. Now, I don't want to take away from what Wayne Rooney has achieved. 50 goals for England is unbelievable. Like I said, he is now the leading goal scorer for England. No one's ever scored that many goals for our country, so he deserves his plaudits. And take the actual tournament games out the situation, his record in qualifiers for major tournaments is amazing. One thing you've also got to say about Rooney is he didn't really get much consistency up front. He was always playing with different strike partners. I think he's had over 20 different strike partners in his time for England, ranging from Francis Jeffers, who he played alongside in his first ever game for England, to Daniel Sturridge, to Darren Bent, to Emil Heskey, to Peter Crouch, to loads of different people. And it's that consistency that can help a player. Charlton, for instance, in that 60s, 70s era for England, played with pretty much the same team for 4 or 5 years. I think Ramsey, the manager, only used 15 players in that time. Substitutes were less of a thing. Rooney's been substituted off for England over 40 times. So those stats do work against him. That's the nature of the game, though. It changes over time. You've also got to look at his disciplinary record for England as well. He's had 2 red cards, 11 yellow ones, sometimes in big games. I was actually in Gelsenkirchen in Germany for the 2006 World Cup game against Portugal, where he got sent off and we ended up losing on penalties. Bobby Charlton had a clean record for England. Gary Lineker was also known for not picking up too many cards, so that has worked against Rooney a little bit. He's got rid of that part of his game quite a lot in recent years, but still, it was there for a long time and still shows itself every now and then. He's also played a lot of games, Wayne Rooney, 107 caps for England. He's played more games than any other striker, so obviously that puts him in a good position to score more goals than any other striker. The next out-and-out striker in terms of caps is Michael Owen, who played 89. That's 18 games less than Wayne Rooney. In terms of a goals per game record, Rooney's actually only 11th on the overall leaderboard. Now, a lot of these guys who've got incredible goals per game ratios actually played back in the day, like the 20s and the 30s, when goals just went in from all angles, and some of them have even got more than a goal per game on average. But even in the modern era, there's quite a few people ahead of Rooney, like Lineker, like Alan Shearer, like Peter Crouch. Although 2-metre Peter did tend to play against some weaker opposition, in fairness. You've also got to look at legends from the 60s/70s like Jimmy Greaves and Geoff Hurst. Now, Geoff Hurst scored a hat-trick in the World Cup final. No one's ever done this in a men's World Cup final since or before him. He's the only person. He didn't have a long career for England like Rooney didn't score as many goals overall, but that alone is a claim for the throne, surely. A World Cup winning hat-trick. Unbelievable. Jimmy Greaves missed out in the World Cup through injury, but he did score a lot of goals for England when he did play. He's got a better goals per game ratio than Rooney. He scored a goal in 77% of his England games. Rooney only scores a goal in 46% of his. Interestingly as well, since Rooney made his debut for England, they've actually had a better win ratio without him than with him. Now, there's no denying when he plays, he does very well. And this is probably more of a coincidence than anything else, but it's worth bringing up. England have played 41 games without Rooney since he made his debut, and they've won 66% of those games. Meanwhile, in the 107 games they've played with him, they've only got a 59% win ratio. That's not what you'd expect. But overall, I think the best way to sum it up is that Wayne Rooney will go down in history as not only one of the best strikers for England of all time, but one of the best players. Not necessarily the best though. I think you've got to applaud his consistency. He's played over a long era from being a teenager to nearly 30 years old now. He's kept scoring reasonably consistently in those years. He's been a pivotal part of the team. He's now the captain. But certain things have worked against him. Red cards he's got in tournaments. His poor performance in big tournaments where he hasn't scored. We've needed him to be the talisman and he just hasn't done that. Only really Euro 2004 is when he really first got on the scene and started banging goals in. He looked really good and I think he still ended up getting injured in that tournament as well. And obviously the fact that he hasn't won anything with England, which isn't necessarily his fault. He may be unlucky being born into an era where there's not as many talented footballers as he is, but that's got to be seen as a major part of your credentials as one of the best England players of all time. I think Rooney's definitely got it in his locker to go on to being known as the best player of all time or the best striker of all time for England, but for me he's got to do a little bit more, whether it's score another 10, 20 goals or more importantly do something big in a tournament, maybe the Euros next year. We're the only team in the European qualification that's got a perfect record. We've won every single game. I would say though, we tend to always qualify quite well with a few hiccups now and then, but generally we do qualify quite well, we just don't deliver in the tournament. So don't get your hopes up, England fans. But Rooney, he is a legend. He's going to be remembered forever as an amazing player for England, but not the best player or not the best striker in my opinion. But that's only my opinion. I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. Obviously Man United fans, I'm sure you're not going to be happy with me. You're going to be waxing lyrical about Rooney's credentials. I'm not saying he's not an amazing player. I love the guy. I think he's got a lot in his locker. Personally, I think he's reached his peak of his powers now and he's probably going to have a little bit of a decline over the next few years. I don't think he's going to kick on. He's definitely not going to improve anymore, I don't think. But he's definitely got it in his locker to do something special for England in the time he has left. And maybe you guys disagree with me. Maybe you think he is the best striker and even the best player England have ever had. Let me know in the comments below if that's the case. Drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Let me know what other IMOs you'd like to see in the future. Subscribe if you're new. But until next time, I'll see you when you're older. Don't go changing.